Record button.
There you go. Sorry.
Now we get to start that conversation all over. Hey, welcome everyone to Never Ending Referrals. Hey, it's a Monday, and that means it's Never Ending Referrals time. And as you know, we kick off the session with an interview. And today we've got a really special guest. His name is Nick Gray. And today we're going to be talking about client events. And so happens I met Nick at a client event with that was being put on by Seth and Alice Daly. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Dalys here a little bit later. And yet Nick is going to introduce us to some strategies for meeting people, ways for us to grow our database, create new relationships. He's an expert in this area. In fact, he wrote the book on it about cocktail parties, and I'll let him tell you a little bit about that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and, Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you because you've got some great intel to share with these guys. Nick Gray, folks.
Okay, great. I'm excited. I'm doing my mic check. Make sure you guys can hear me. Let me go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. And I'm just going to try to convince you guys about why you should host a party, or maybe why you should host lots of parties, especially for client events. Very briefly, though, I'll tell you why you should listen to me. I started a company called Museum Hack, which did renegade museum tours at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and other big museums. I think I became slightly famous for it a couple of years ago. You may have never heard of it, but we hired people like stand-up comedians and Broadway actors to lead the museum tours. I built that into a multi-million-dollar company. The secret was selling it to businesses like Google, GE, and Nike. For these were some of our tour guides to bring their team members to the museum for a team building experience. I could take that $59 museum tour that I sold to tourists. I could polish it up a little bit and sell it to the Fortune 500 for $159. And I got written about in the New York Times. They said these are museum tours for people who don't like museums. And then I had a TEDx talk and things like that. I sold that business in 2019 for a couple $1 million. I don't say that to brag, but to tell you that my new project, it's called the 2-Hour Cocktail Party. And I'm just on this passion mission to try to get people to host more events. Something like 20% of American men don't have a single close friend, 15% for women. Most adults have not made a new friend in the last 2.5 years. What could it be like if you, through your practice, could bring your neighbors and your friends together, and how could it help your business? So I will try to convince you to host a party, and we'll talk about how it can benefit your party. But I would love to hear in the chat, or maybe just from Steve, has anyone hosted a client event recently? And then what went well? And then maybe I'll ask Steve, because I heard about one, which I'll speak about, and then I'll get Steve's feedback on it. Somebody said,
go ahead.
Well, yes, Steve. Steve, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to bring Tammy into that conversation because she just had a mega event at her home. And Tammy, what went well? What was great about that? You're muted, Tammy.
Well, our most recent one was not at our home. It was actually at it was a fall festival, and about 180 something past clients and tons of fun.
That's awesome. 180 past clients. That's incredible. And do you do that every year?
Yes, several times.
Wow. That's incredible. That's great. I'm specifically interested for anyone in the chat about who's hosted something small, something, for example, with 15, 20, 25, ideally less than 30. I can't see the chat, but if you guys can see it. Steve, what do you think about this idea? Somebody recently told me that when they help somebody sell their house or buy the house, they host the housewarming party for their client. Mm-hmm. And then is this a common sort of practice in your world?
It should be common, frankly, Nick, and it's not. It's such a missed opportunity to create a network of wonderful connections, and it's underutilized. It happens very rarely, frankly, Nick. Yeah.
It's such a massive thing. I'm gonna ask Steve and Tammy to look at the chat and tell me what's in there because I can't see it on mine.
Talking about, she hosted one in August. We host events with a fun theme. So we had a National Bee Day. We had a bee and honey theme, and we had about 30 people.
That's cool. That's great. That's neat.
Yeah.
Nice. I like those themes.
Yeah. And then Alice has got one coming up on the 19th. She's going perfect timing. She's had I've had only 15 RSVP, so I'm pretty nervous, she says. And then
Great. Good. Yes, yes, yes. Continue.
and Brandy says we had a small poker party to introduce a new neighbor to our neighborhood group, and they moved here from Juneau. And even though having lived here for 3 years, didn't know anyone. So she's bringing.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's good. So I hear the person who has an event that's coming up. You only have 15 RSVPs. I'm going to talk about this book that I wrote, which is called The 2-Hour Cocktail Party, which I think I've figured out the formula that you can use as a client event operating system. And I hope it will encourage you to give this a try. And you guys are all pretty smart. One thing I want to say, though, is that it's very important that you start what I'm going to teach you with your friends and neighbors first. Do not do this as a client event yet. I'll tell you why. Suffice to say that you need to build the muscle memory to use name tags, to run a round of icebreakers. I want you to have the confidence with your friends and neighbors first. So we talked a little bit about the client events. Let me just say that hosting a party is an incredible way to get new leads, prospects, and clients because you don't even have to sell. It keeps you top of mind, and people, the reciprocity principle, will be so thankful that you gave them the gift of a party invitation. Here's the key part. These parties are about meeting new people. It's not about the food or the entertainment. It's that you will help them to meet new people in your community, and you'll become a super connector. How do I know this works? I've hosted hundreds of these parties. That's me in the center, sort of pumping my fist like a 12-year-old. I moved to Austin, Texas about a year and a half ago, and I didn't know anybody. But I knew the formula on how to start to meet people, and that was by hosting events. Anyone interesting who I met, I would say to them, hey, I'm meeting all these interesting people. I'm going to host a little happy hour. Can I invite you in a couple weeks? It was an easy way for me to get their contact info. That's important. The ask is not, can I tell you about my business? Are you looking to buy a home? The ask is, I'm meeting these interesting people. Can I invite you to a cocktail party or to a happy hour? By the way, that phrase cocktail party, you can do this even without alcohol. I don't know how to make a cocktail. I don't even drink alcohol. But that phrase cocktail party is an easy social construct of a lightweight event with low commitment and a lot of conversations where you'll meet some new people. I've been on a mission to teach 500 people how to host these 2-hour cocktail parties. These are photos of me and some of them. I launched my book about 4 months ago. I have 270 reviews on Amazon. I've personally talked to over, I think, 109 people so far the day after their first party. People like this woman, her name is Linda, and she hosted a Wine Wednesdays for women in her neighborhood and in her community. People like this guy, his name is Darren, and he says he's an introvert who pretends to be an extrovert. He lives in Boston. And my book and my formula gave him the idea of how to do that with confidence. This guy's up in Dallas. He got his friends together. This guy hosts an insurance practice for companies that go bankrupt. And he did this as like a professional networking event. It was a huge success. But where you'll be successful with this, and this is important, is that when you don't just invite your clients, when you mix it up and have a diversity of attendees from your personal life, from your neighbors, maybe at the gym. This is a woman, her name is Nagina. She was a self-described soccer mom who focused on her kids and her business, didn't have a big social life. And she said, I want to learn how to do this so I can make friends. She started to host these events, really built up a huge network for her. So that's a little bit about that. I'm going to tell you guys the executive summary. I'm not trying to sell my book. If you want to buy it, I think you will, but I'll tell you everything inside so you can do this yourself. The first thing is, and then soon, about 5 minutes, I'll take a break for Steve or take a break for sort of questions to see if you guys have any questions before I continue. If you're interested in doing this, if you want to do it, remember, we're going to do it first for your friends and neighbors, ideally 15 to 20 people. That is the sweet spot. You will pick a date approximately 3 weeks from now, only on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday night. I'll tell you why. You're going to pick a start time and an end time for 2 hours. You will communicate this end time as well, so people know and they expect. I can also tell you how to end the party. Many people have questions about that. How do I kick them out? You will invite first what I call your core group. That means you need 5 people who will say yes. That can be your close friends, your neighbors, and you're going to text them a little message and say, hey, I'm thinking of hosting a happy hour on Tuesday night, November the 4th from 6 to 8 p.m. at my house. If I do it, would you come? You're going to get those first 5 that will give you a sense of confidence, and then I'll teach you how to invite people so that you know that you'll have over a 93% attendance ratio. One of those is that you're going to ask everyone to RSVP. To the woman who said she has a party coming up with only 15 RSVPs, which platform do you use to collect your RSVPs? I'd love to know from others in the chat, which event platforms do you guys use? Some of them are like Eventbrite, Evite. The one that I like is called Mixily, Mixily, Paperless Post, all the Gen Zs like this one called Partyful. So anyhow, at the party, here's what happens at a 2-hour cocktail party. You will use name tags for everyone. And now if anybody hates this idea, I would love to talk to you about it, but I'll tell you why it's extremely important. You will facilitate 2.5 quick rounds of icebreakers. I'll tell you sample ones and the exact questions to use so that it's not awkward. You will make sure that you take a group photo and you'll end the party on time. So I'm going to take a pause here to check in with Steve and to check in if there's any questions. And then I'll get into more of the details. I'm so excited to talk about this. Steve, how am I doing?
Of course, you're on the platform you were asking about. They mentioned Evite, Punchbowl, as some of the resources they were using. And actually, somebody's asking if you might go back to that walk to slide. Again, I think they want to screen share. And,
oh yeah, please.
Yeah. And let's take it back at the chat. Cassie was saying our next event on December 3rd, we're having a cookie exchange event.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's what we got in the chat. But you know what's really interesting about this, I think for anybody, Nick, is we teach models and systems quite frequently. And when you say host a cocktail party or even a happy hour or any of that language, I don't know that we've gotten to the recipe of just here's the step by step. And
yes,
and what I love about where you're taking us is that here's a step by step. It's all the lessons of the do's and don'ts. Like I can't wait to hear why the no on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Because I think maybe we're conditioned to that's when people would get together. And yet really curious to hear your thoughts around this.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Great. Then I'm going to blow through this. And if you have questions, add them in the chat. I'll probably talk for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll take a break for questions. So why not do it on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday night? Well, here's the thing. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays tend to be red level days. What do I mean by that? I mean that they are socially competitive nights where other events get scheduled. The number one fear for someone who has never hosted an event before is that nobody will show up. Or worse than that only a few people will show up and they won't get enough critical mass so that there's energy in the room. Now that critical mass, by the way, for me is 15 to 20 people. 15 to 20 people is enough people where the energy in the room, when somebody comes in, they say, wow, there's a lot of people here. I'm going to talk to new people. Less than 15, you don't have that. Above about 25, the icebreakers can go too long. And the party, I believe that at larger events, it takes a lot of work for you to really do those well. And I want to show you an easy formula. I'm not saying you can't do larger events. Larger events are for pro hosts. But I want to give you a formula for a happy hour that you could regularly host every 6 weeks to use as a client event to think about your funnel. Your funnel should literally be any new connection that you make gets invited to one of your parties. They go into that invitation list, and you can build the relationship at these events. So that's why the formula that I'm sharing, for those of you who are experienced hosts, you may say, oh, wow, no food, which by the way, there's no food at these events. Let's talk about why it's at your home though. Hosting at home is more vulnerable, it's more generous, and it tends to be smaller, that there's higher energy when people are in your home. What do I mean by energy? I mean that in a restaurant, in a bar, you can't control the space. It's a lot of other people. It feels like a networking event. When you host it at home, you will turbocharge your relationships. You will build big relationships faster. And I would caution anyone from thinking, oh, my house is too small, my house is too messy, my house is too far away. The number one thing I've learned in working with hundreds of people to host an event is that it doesn't matter. People will respect you more for having the confidence to host and to bring people into your home. Nobody's going to show up to your home and say, oh, this house is too small or it's too messy. I'm going to leave this party and start a rival cocktail party. Everybody come to my party instead. They won't do that. Instead, they will respect you and they'll appreciate that you brought people together. So let's talk about what is that formula briefly. The formula, you can think about my name, N-I-C-K. You need to do this for all of your events. N stands for name tags. I'll tell you why. First of all, first names only. Do not write them out beforehand. You should be the one writing them out when people arrive. It gives you a touch point to welcome them. Name tags serve as a visual unifier at your event that, number one, there's no clicks. Number two, it's a safe, welcoming space for new people. And number three, that it's a space where going up and saying hello to somebody new is not only welcome, but it's accepted and encouraged. Name tags provide that. Never mind that they help you as the host to easily ask somebody, oh my gosh, what's your name again? Can I write it down? How do you spell that? Welcome. I'm so happy to have you. The sweetest sound, Dale Carnegie says, is the sweetest sound to anyone's ears is the sound of their own name, and name tags make that helpful. And they're going to help your guests meet each other and mix and mingle. That's what will make your event successful. That's why people will see you as the super connector. I stands for icebreakers. You're going to lead 2.5 icebreakers during your party. Here's the one that you use at the beginning. By the way, if anybody has an icebreaker that they love, that they use, please tell me in the chat. I love hearing these icebreakers. I'll tell you the ones I use and why I use them. At the beginning of an event, there's no rapport that has been built. In fact, leading an icebreaker might feel awkward. So we need the easiest possible icebreaker. How I set it up at my events, and I write the exact scripts. My book is filled with all the scripts, exactly what to say, and a minute-by-minute breakdown for your party. The icebreaker that I'd say first is, hey, everybody, welcome. I hosted this party so I could get all my different friend groups together. I wanted you all to meet somebody new. To help that, let's go around the room. We're going to do a quick icebreaker. And here's what we're going to say. You're going to say your name. You're going to briefly say what you do for work or how you spend your day. And then I'd love to hear, what is one of your favorite things to eat for breakfast? What's one of your go-to breakfasts? And then I go first. This is very, very important. You as the host always go first, and you'll ask the person to your left or right. You'll turn and say, so I'll go first, and then can I go to you, Darren? Darren will either say yes or no. Say yes. You say, great, I'll go first. Then we'll go to Darren, and we'll go around the room this way. So that's really helpful, being explicit and letting people know what to expect. I forgot, by the way, that name tags help people with social anxiety, introverts and shy people, and making these events feel more welcome to those individuals, to someone allowing to bring a spouse or a partner or a plus one. Doing these things really helps that. So that's the first icebreaker I do. Name, what do you do for work, and what do you like to eat for breakfast? Now, that icebreaker works 100% of the time, and I'll tell you why. It's easy, it doesn't require a lot of thought, and there's no judgment. It's also fast. A good icebreaker is a fast icebreaker. I'm not so concerned with people's answers to the icebreaker. I just want them to sound off a little bit.
I'm
after
concerned they
yeah,
might judge me if I say Pop-Tarts, though, hey. So,
if you say Pop-Tarts, that's all right. That's all right. I would love you. That'd be perfect. I'm going to Steve. I'll tell you a story. In New York City, where I used to live, I lived in New York for 13 years. I'd host these icebreakers to kind of break the room up and get the party going. And this one woman showed up, and she just looked like a mean fashion designer. She was dressed in all black. She had bangs. She was a little bit older. She probably raised in New York City. And we went around, and we came to her, and she said, "My name's Diane. For work, I write about fashion, and my favorite thing for breakfast is cigarettes." And and you know what? It was kind of hilarious. Everybody laughed, and it just kind of broke the room up a little bit.
There you go.
So on that formula, I'll come back later if you guys want to know for the last icebreaker that I like. Very briefly, I'll tell you now. The last icebreaker I like, you'll do it about an hour later, 30 minutes before your party's scheduled to end. You'll do the same thing. Okay, folks, we're going to do one more round of icebreakers in 5 minutes. I want you to say your name, what you do for work, and the question this time will be, what is one of the best pieces of media that you've consumed over the past few months? That can be a book you read, a podcast you listened to, a movie you watched, a Netflix show you binged on. What's just a great piece of media that you want to share? You'll make that announcement 5 minutes before to give people a minute to think. But here's why that icebreaker works, because it's additive to the room. It will make people feel smarter, and in turn, they'll leave your party feeling smarter. Some other ones that I like that are additive to the room are, number one, what's one of your favorite purchases you've made over the last year that's $100 or less? Could be an object or an experience. Could be a kitchen gadget or a guided tour. Anything fun. That's one. The second one is, say that you live in St. Louis and you're doing this. What is one of your best St. Louis city hacks? That could be a great restaurant you love that people haven't heard of, a good dog park you like to go to, a nice walking trail. But you'll give people 5 minutes to think about that. And why is this helpful? Because it's additive and people will feel smarter. As they go around, they'll share what they do for work. Because again, you never know who's looking for a job or who wants to network. And then they'll share that icebreaker. You have to do these icebreakers. Many people feel anxiety about doing icebreakers. That's why your first party will be with your friends and neighbors and people you feel comfortable with. Don't reach from the top shelf for your first party. C stands for cocktails only. Drinks only. This is a self-serve bar. It's not a dinner party. There's very basic snacks you can do, like salted nuts and chips and dip and baby carrots, maybe a cheese board, but this is extremely basic. If you're someone who regularly hosts and you say, "Oh, I could never host without feeding people," try my formula because it's easy. The greatest benefits will come to you when you can make hosting a habit. Hosting is something you should be regularly doing to think about that funnel and those client events. K, N-I-C-K, K stands for kick everyone out after 2 hours. That's why we host it in part on a Monday, a Tuesday, Wednesday night. It makes it easier for people to leave. It makes it easier for you to do this again and again. And it makes it easier for people to say yes. So you'll kick everyone out after 2 hours. The basic gist of how to do that is that 15 minutes before the end of your party, you'll make a last call. Somebody at a bar. "Hey, everybody, thank you so much for coming. Party's scheduled to end in about 15 minutes. This will be the last call if you want to grab a drink or say hey to somebody new." By the way, when you set a start time and an end time, and you list that in your invitation, in your RSVPs, people will know that there will be an end time. Many people find, "Oh my God, how do I kick people out?" Well, if people don't know you're going to kick them out, then that's weird. That's when it's weird. I've done this hundreds of times. I'm happy to talk more. We talked about some of the new hosts. I can talk about how to invite people, how to collect RSVPs, the 3 reminder messages. Oh my God, this is key. Guest bios in there. This is in chapter 7 of my book. It is a secret weapon to do the guest bios. But I'm going to take a little pause. I'm going to stop the share to check in with Tammy and with Stephen to see if there's any questions or anything you want me to keep riffing on for the few minutes I have left.
I think they're just sucking it all in, Nick. So
Good.
literally, it's
Good.
like, here's the thing. I'm just going to personally say, the fact that it's like easy and here's the recipe and it's 2 hours, it's in and out, it's not planning this elaborate menu is super exciting.
Yes, that's the big thing. How can I show you the MVP, the minimum viable party? Know that people are not coming for your live entertainment or for the food. They're coming for you and for the connections that you'll make. You can be seen as the super connector. You don't even have to sell. They will know you. They will know you for this.
Awesome.
Now, when you go around and do the icebreakers, you get to mention what you do for work. That's a small commercial that you get to give. But the reciprocity principle shows that when you invite people to a party, it feels like a gift that you get to give to them. Someone here is wondering, what tool do you use to collect RSVPs? I will jump into that here. I'm also going to show you. Here's the platforms that I like. Please do not use Evite. Please do not use Evite. There's too much spam. There's too many ads on the page. People have to register. Evite was a platform of 15 years ago. If you need one today, use the last one on this list, Mixly. You can collect their email addresses, send reminder messages. It's free. There's no ads. There's no spam. Mixly is the favorite one. Paperless Post is probably my second favorite one. Those are the ones that I like. Mixly. I wrote a blog post about this, about the features I like. Please enable this feature that shows the guest list so people can see that others are attending. This gives your party social proof. By the way, there's something here that says +1, show an option for a +1. I add into mine. I say, hey, you're welcome to bring a +1. Please have them RSVP here on this page though. Why? Number one, because I want to collect their contact info. And number two, so they can get my reminder messages and they know what to expect. They know that there will be name tags and icebreakers. It won't be a surprise for them. This is the name of my book. It's called The 2-Hour Cocktail Party. Over 270 reviews on Amazon. I recorded the audio. Screenshot this page because this is my contact info. I'm a psycho. This is my real cell phone number. I love to talk to people about parties. I do it every day for about an hour or two. I get to talk with people that have a party coming up. They have questions. They're struggling to invite people. Maybe they have too many people who've RSVP'd. I practice icebreakers with people. This is a passion project for me, and I'm on a mission to get 500 people to host their first client event or neighborhood cocktail party, because I think that what we need now is more friends. We need more relationships. We need less screen time and more in-person gathering. And I think I figured out a formula to make that easy called the 2-Hour Cocktail Party. That is my pitch. That's my spiel. And I hope I've encouraged you all to do this so you can use it as a client event. The K, by the way, for Sophia, the K stands for kick them out at the end. It's only 2 hours long. And so you'll make a little announcement 15 minutes before to let people know that it's the last call.
Well, and Nick, you go to bringing them into your home. And that is, and I remember the dailies hearing them say this so often, and that would be that we want to be in business with people the kind of people we would want to have in our home. And as you begin to do this, it creates this connection. When they come into your place that you call home, there's a vulnerability, there's a, hey, I really know you. I think you described it as taking the relationship to another level.
Yes, it turbocharges
Mm-hmm.
the relationship. When you invite someone to your home, it's the difference between a client event at a restaurant, which clearly feels a little transactional, right? And when you invite them into your home, it is a personal thing. You're building a relationship with them. And I think that that's what you and a lot of your associates want to be doing.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, when, we host many events over the course of the year, and when we have them here, when they're at home, and we just did that not too long ago, just with a small group of our I guess you call them our VIPs. It is. I mean, we actually spent time with them. We get to talk to them. We meet people, and it's very true.
Yeah, it's super true. One
Yeah.
thing that I really, really recommend, I love those 15 to 20 people group sizes because for a new host, you know, Tammy, not everybody feels comfortable and confident to host 100+ people as you. They want to be that person. But what I advise them, I say, look, get a couple of these small events under your belt. Build your list. Build your list of friends and neighbors who know that you host a good event, and then you can grow it into something much larger. Yeah.
Wow.
Last thing I'll say.
The name tag, it's, you know, as somebody who's not a high social myself, I know when I'm in that setting where, because I don't know, I got the memory of a gnat when it comes to names at social events, you know, and it's like, you'll say Nick and I'm going, and then 2 minutes later, what was it, Rick or Jack? What was it?
Yes.
And to know that I can engage you again and see the name's going to be right here, because I may choose to disengage and where I might desire to engage you again. But if I'm feeling like I'm going to be embarrassed because I can't remember your name, that name tag's a powerful tool.
And it just reduces the awkwardness
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, even for a party at home, for your friends and neighbors, know that if anyone brings a +1, they don't know anybody's name. The name tag serves as a visual unifier, like a sports jersey, that this is a welcome in space.
Mm-hmm.
And the key thing that I can't stress enough is that everyone wants to know someone who hosts events. Everyone wants to know the dailies. They want to know Tammy, who brings people together. You can be that person. I've found all that it takes is a simple 2-hour cocktail party. Make it easy for yourself to guarantee a successful event.
Nick, this has been a power pack 30 minutes. So thank you. And by the way, in the chat, you'll find the link to Amazon, to his handbook, and as well as his Instagram link. So make sure you get hold of Nick. And you even got a cell phone number. So there you go.
Yes, feel free to call me. I love to talk about parties and events.
Yeah.
We love it. We love it.
And by the way, you come to us all the way from Costa Rica today. So thank you for taking time out of paradise to be with us. We so appreciate that. All right. Thank you so much, Nick. We appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. So but let's clear that for a second before we wrap up, Tammy. I mean, give me some thoughts. I mean, you know, I go back to, you know, Nick, name tags, icebreakers, cocktails only,
Check them out.
kick everyone out. And, you know, the icebreakers, I love the idea of people feel smarter when they leave.
Yes. And the great unifier too. You know, so you don't feel like you're walking in where maybe 10 people know each other and you know 2.
Yeah.
You know, it's this whole idea behind bringing people together. People love to be connected, and we're really uniquely placed in what we do for a living to connect people. Yeah. And when you focus on that, you know, I think there's a bold law around that, right? What you focus on expands. It will happen. What a great formula. I mean, we all need to run out and grab that book and model this and start, you know, what a great way to build that up. Those of you who might have joined us late, you know, Steve, you remember at the beginning, he said, I just run around and as I'm meeting people, I say, you know, hey, I'm going to be hosting this cocktail party for like some really neat people that I've been meeting lately. And I'd love to invite you. Would you like to attend? I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good.
Yeah. It's just
so good.
Just the blinding flash of the obvious in so much of this. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Wow. All right, guys. So here's what we're going to switch gears and we're going to head over to session 4 of Never Ending Referrals. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and we'll set that up. So stand by.